Tonight's video is to go along with your word problem homework that you have. The objective is I can solve a system of equations given a word problem. So that's what we're going to do. We've been solving systems graphically. We learned how to solve systems using the addition elimination method. Sometimes we'll be given a word problem that we can write a system for and solve. So that's what we're going to work on tonight. Bert's Cab Company charges $1 plus an additional $3 per mile for a ride. Madeline's Cab Company charges $3 plus an additional $2 per mile for a ride. Write a system of linear equations that shows the cost in dollars, Y, for a cab ride of X miles for each cab driver. So we know X refers to the miles, Y refers to the cost in dollars. So if it says $3 per mile for Bert's company, I know that's going to be 3 times X. Plus an additional $1 to get picked up. And that'll give me the total cost in Y dollars. So I know it will be Y equals 3X plus 1. You could have written Y equals 1 plus 3X. For Madeline's Cab Company, it's $3 plus an additional $2 per mile. I know X is my miles, so if it's $2 per mile, I know that will be 2X. I see the word plus, so I know I'm going to add on, and a $3 charge. So that total cost Y will be 2X plus 3. We did a word problem just like this last week where we graphed them, the two equations. We saw where they would cross, and then we knew that was our solution, and then we interpreted that solution. Sometimes they won't ask you to solve it graphically. They'll ask you to solve it algebraically. It says, at what distance in miles will the cost be the same for both companies? So we want the cost to be the same. Well, what represents our cost? Y represents our cost. We want the cost to be the same. So we know if we have Y equals 3X plus 1 and Y equals 2X plus 3, and we want that cost to be the same, it means we need 3x plus 1 to be the same as 2x plus 3. What does it mean to be the same in mathematics? It means for them to be equal. So where will 3x plus 1 equal 2x plus 3? That will give us the same cost. And you can see they're each equal to y. We can set them equal to one another. Now we're just solving an equation in one variable. So I'm going to start by subtracting 1 on each side, and I get 3x equals 2x plus 2. I'm then going to subtract 2x on both sides, and I get x equals 2. That means the cost will be the same when they go 2 miles. So that's the first part. At what distance in miles will the cost be the same? Well, at 2 miles, the cost will be the same. And we can check that up here. 3 times 2 plus 1. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1. That would cost $7 for 2 miles. 2 times 2 plus 3. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 3. 4 plus 3. That means it's going to cost $7 for 2 miles. Makes sense to me. Let's go to the next part. So as we look at the second part, it says, which cab driver's charge will be less for a ride that is 10 miles in distance? So we're looking for which cab driver would cost less after 10 miles. Well, we know our miles is X. So that means just substitute 10 in place of X in each. So for Bert, that would be Y equals 3 times 10 plus 1. Y equals 30 plus 1. It would be $31 for Bert's cab. For Madeline's cab, we'll do Y equals 2 times 10 plus 3. I'm just substituting 10 in place of the X in each of our equations to find out the cost. 2 times 10 is 20 plus 3. That means if you're in Madeline's cab, it will cost you $23 for a 10-mile ride. So which cab driver's charge will be less? Well, Madeline's will be less. Madeline's will be less. And how do I know Madeline's will be less? Because it's only $23 as opposed to $31. Use words and numbers to explain how you determined your answer. I substituted 10 in place of x in each equation, since x represents the number of miles. I found that Bert would charge 3 times 10 plus 1, or $31 for a 10-mile ride. Madeline would only charge 2 times 10 plus 3, or $23 for a 10-mile ride. So it's a, oops, I just want to make sure I answered the question that they asked. So it said, use words and numbers to explain how you determined your answer. I substituted 10 in place of x in each equation since x represents the number of miles. That's exactly what I did. I found that Bert would charge $31 for a 10-mile ride and Madeline would only charge $23 for a 10-mile ride. That answers it. Okay, moving on. This is the second problem on your homework, and I just want to show you the difference, like why I don't need a system of equations here. David currently has a square garden. He wants to redesign his garden and make it into a rectangle with a length that is 3 feet shorter than twice the width. He decides that the perimeter should be 60 feet. Determine the dimensions in feet of his new garden. Okay, so if I drew a picture of the original garden was a square. So I could call each side of that square X. Can everyone understand why we don't need a Y? He currently has a square garden. Therefore, each side on the square garden is the same. That's why I don't need a Y here. I only need an X. He wants to redesign his garden to make it into a rectangle. So now he does want a rectangle where the length is 3 feet shorter than twice the width. So he's keeping the width of X, but now he's going to redesign this so the new length is 3 feet shorter than twice the width. So it's going to be 3 feet shorter than twice the width. So that's 2x minus 3. So I'm going to let x equal the width. He doesn't change the width when he turns his garden into a rectangle. He just makes the garden longer. And so his new garden has dimensions 2x minus 3 by x. He decides he wants the perimeter of the new garden to be 60 feet. So now if we look at this new garden to find our perimeter, we just add up all the sides. And so the reason we don't need two variables is because all we involved in the original was an x. Each side had been an x. The length was x and the width was x. To make our rectangle, the width is still x, and they tell us that the length will be 3 feet shorter than twice the width. So now I'm just going to add up all the sides to find the perimeter. 2x minus 3 plus x plus 2x minus 3 plus x, and he wants his new perimeter to be 60 feet. And we have to determine the dimensions, so that means we're going to need to know the width and the length. Okay, 2x and x is 3x, and 2 more x, 2 and 2, 4, 5. Is that 6x? I hope. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6x. And then minus 3 more is minus 6. So 6x minus 6 is equal to 60. We're just going to go ahead and solve this equation by adding 6 on both sides. 6x equals 66. Divide both sides by 6. I come up with x equals 11. So 11 feet must be the width, because we let x be the width. The width didn't change from the original. Now to find the length, we know the length is 2x minus 3. So it's 2 times 11 minus 3. 2 times 11 is 22 minus 3. 22 minus 3 is 19. 19 feet will be the length. And the reason I did that problem was just to show you that you don't always need two variables. So you don't have to write a system of equations. If you can get away with just using one variable, go for it and take a throwback to when we did our equations in one variable unit. All right, hopefully that helped. Try to have a good night.